The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Chatting with Jocelyn. I'm so pleased that you could join me this afternoon. I have a fabulous guest, Kelley Potenza, and she was one of the people that attended the governor/executive council meeting this past Wednesday, not yesterday, but a week ago. I'm going to have the producer roll the tape so that you can all be familiar with what actually went on in that room. There's a lot of talking, but it becomes very clear. They pause, and you can hear exactly what was going on, or actually what was not going on, until certain people were removed from the audience. We don't know why. There wasn't any sound. There was no talking. There was no yelling. These people were removed, and then they were arrested. At that point, when people figured out that they were being arrested for nothing, things got a little loud, as they should. But again, never out of control, never any threats, never any violence. This was a peaceful assembly of people that were trying to get to their legislators. All redress of grievance had been shut down. There was no communication. There was nothing. So go ahead and roll that tape. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daniel Richard. I'm with New Hampshire Committee of Safety. Just wanted to give you another safety moment today.
Pure intimidation. Oh my God, Frank didn't even do anything. Alright, guys.
Richard Lehman here for Senate President Chuck Morris.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. James Yancey on behalf of Sherman Packard, Speaker of the House.
People may peaceably assemble. When they're doing that, the police or soldiers are not going to come and break up their meeting where they're talking about things that are of importance to them. That's an important substantive right. And if they're right there in the amendment, they are allowed to give instructions to their representatives. They're allowed to say what's on their mind, what they want their elected representatives in the general court to do. Although it's not written into the Constitution expressly, it's always been understood that the people will not be retaliated against by the government based on the requests that they may make of their elected representatives. Article 32 says, the people have a right in an orderly and peaceable manner to assemble and consult upon the common good, give instructions to their representatives, and to request of the legislative body, by way of petition or remonstrance, redress of the wrongs done them and the grievances they suffer. The police or soldiers are not going to come and break up their meeting where they're talking about things that are of importance to them. That's an important substantive right. And if they're right there in the amendment, they are allowed to give instructions to their representatives. They're allowed to say what's on their mind, what they want their elected representatives in the general court to do. Although it's not written into the Constitution expressly, it's always been understood that the people will not be retaliated against by the government based on the requests that they may make of their elected representatives. Police or soldiers are not going to come and break up their meeting where they're talking about things that are of importance to them. That's an important substantive right. And if they're right there in the amendment, they are allowed to give instructions to their representatives. They're allowed to say what's on their mind, what they want their elected representatives in the general court to do. Although it's not written into the Constitution expressly, it's always been understood that the people will not be retaliated against by the government based on the requests that they may make of their elected representatives. Article 32 says the people have a right in an orderly and peaceful manner to assemble and consult upon the common good, give instructions to their representatives and to request of the legislature.
That provision provides substantive protections that are very important. It says the people may peaceably assemble. When they're doing that, the police or soldiers are not going to come and break up their meeting where they're talking about things that are of importance to them. That's an important substantive right, and it's right there in the amendment.
Article 32 says, the people have a right in an orderly and peaceable manner to assemble and consult upon the common good, give instructions to their representatives, and to request of the legislative body, by way of petition or remonstrance, redress of the wrongs done them and the grievances they suffer. Police or soldiers are not going to come and break up their meeting where they're talking about things that are of importance to them. That's an important substantive right, and they're right there in the amendment. They are allowed to give instructions to their representatives. They're allowed to say what's on their mind, what they want their elected representatives in the general court to do. Although it's not written into the Constitution expressly, it's always been understood that the people will not be retaliated against. Protections that are very important. It says the people may peaceably assemble. When they're doing that, the police or soldiers are not going to come and break up their meeting where they're talking about things that are of importance to them. That's an important substantive right, and they're right there in the amendment. They are allowed to give instructions to their representatives. They're allowed to say what's on their mind, what they want their elected representatives in the general court to do. Although it's not written into the Constitution expressly, it's always been understood that the people will not be retaliated against by the government based on the requests that they may make of their elected representatives. And they may describe, as they want to, the grievances they have and the steps that they want their elected representatives to take to redress those grievances.
We, the people, demand action now. If our elected officials do not stand up for our God-given constitutional rights that they swore an oath to uphold, they will be just as guilty as Governor Sununu and the police involved in this setup. This video is all the proof you need. It's time. It's time to save our beloved country. Please commit at least 1 hour or more a week to the cause. Together, we will make America free again.
For mobile vaccine vans and personnel, I assume.
3 meetings ago, or the last time we met, or the time before that, but it was clear that we didn't approve.
We are the people. You're arresting the wrong people. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Come on. Fine. Why don't you arrest the damn emperor? Get her out of here.
So that's a very, very interesting video, and I think you'll agree, Kelley. I don't think anything's missing from there. I think it's exactly what happened. And being a person that was boots on the ground, sitting right there, can you tell us what went on? Because to me, I didn't see anybody doing anything wrong. What I did notice, however, on probably the 4th or 5th time watching the video, that we are watching a governor at the front who's looking right and nodding, looking left and nodding, using eye signals, and then texting on his phone to a number of the state troopers on the side, and I believe Richard Tracy as well. So have I got anything wrong? And you know, please tell us exactly what went on since you were there.
Okay, so it was really a crazy experience because it's nothing like that you've ever seen. So I've been to a gazillion of these meetings and even protests that were outside. And this really wasn't a protest. There was a lot of people that were outside, but for the most part, everyone was that was let in could be let in. So there was 173 people that were let in the room. Mm-hmm. And even though they had a lot more space in there, it was it was created in the realm of a police state, in a sense, like the governor had his own personal Stasi, really was what came down. So it was supposed to be, when the meeting was canceled on September 29th, it was supposed to be at UNH. And so that meeting got pulled from UNH, and then it was to be determined. And then 4 or 5 days before, it went on the calendar and it said it was going to be at the Police Training and Standards Center. So we go there, but it just doesn't make any sense. Why would we have it there? It's, the people's business should be held in the Capitol, in the State House, it shouldn't be there at all. So we all show up. A lot of people showed up from, I'd say 8 in the morning to 8:30, 9 o'clock. I got there. There was a lot of people outside, probably about 300 or so outside at that time. And then we proceeded to go inside, I think about 9:30. Now outside there was about 4 state troopers that were right there at the door. And then you went into like a little, kind of a vestibule area. And there was another 5 or so state troopers there. Then you walked in and we all started taking seats, but there was also a lot of people standing in the back as well. And then lining the whole room were state troopers. I would say I counted about 23 that were the ones that were in the uniforms. The ones that were not uniformed was probably about another, I would say 7 or 8 that were ununiformed, they are non-uniformed, whoever they were, police. There was also the governor's detail. He had 3 of his of the governor's detail there, which are state police in like plain clothes. Mm-hmm. And then there was also Dick Tracy, who is the criminal investigator for the New Hampshire Department of Justice. John Fromella, the governor's, which was formerly the governor's personal attorney, which is now his attorney general of New mm-hmm. Hampshire. Yep. So he was there too. I mean, they had a whole gamut of everybody that you could possibly imagine there. So the meeting went on. I'd love to say the beginning of the meeting is when we were kind of told, sit down and shut up. So we did the Pledge of Allegiance, and everybody was very excited when they were doing the Pledge of Allegiance. And so they said it very loud and very proud. And at the end of it, we cheered. And so then the governor's like, we're not going to allow any of that.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're not going to allow any excitement?
Yeah. There's a bunch of videos. There's with everybody that took videos, there's got to be about 100 out there. So that's the best part of the video is when he says that. And so he kind of set the tone for that. And then the meeting was going on about a good hour and a half before anybody got arrested. And now there was never any yellouts or anything like that. It was, there were some, maybe moans or, when some, unfavorable things were said. There was a period of the meeting, this was before way before the 27 million was voted on, where they're basically asking for $13 million for their vaccine vans to go around. And then Lori Chivanep is up there talking about injecting 5 to 11-year-old kids. And so that was really hard for a lot of people to hear. And so we stood up and we turned our backs and we held our signs and we stayed silent. And that was really powerful. And then when we turned back around and people started to sit down is when the arrests started to happen. Now, while this whole thing is going on, the governor is on his phone. He's doing, he's got his phone up and he's doing this little texting. And then he's, so he does one text, it goes down, he does another text. John Fromella comes and whispers in his ear. Mm-hmm. There's the looking, there's one point in time where he goes like that. Yep. Yeah, it's very, and there's a video where there's a state trooper that is like looking down on his phone at the same time when this is going on. So it just doesn't make any sense. So the first 2 people that got arrested were Frank and Therese, mm-hmm. and they were just sitting there. And literally just sitting there. Therese had her arms up like she was, like praying in a sense like this. And that was it. And she got tapped on the shoulder and he got tapped on the shoulder and they were walked out back. So think of a gymnasium, because that's what this place is. And so there was a big curtain, and behind that curtain, there was, I've heard, up to 40 different state police and officers back there. Oh yeah, they were like all waiting for us. And so they could have, just to backtrack a little bit, there was about 150 people that were outside that were not left in. So this is supposed to be public access. This is a public meeting. So we're all supposed to be able to be in there and hear and participate in the process, right? Well, not in New Hampshire, you can't. So behind that curtain, there was all those police officers. And so the minute that they brought Therese and Frank back there, they were arresting them. And so Frank yells out, "We're getting arrested, shut it down." And she yells out something the same, like, "Shut it down." And so then the next arrest happens. So it's AJ Todd. Yep. And he basically raises his arms and says, "Why are you arresting them?" And so because he said that, he got arrested. And then Marilyn Todd got her son in her arms, and she's getting, teary and upset because they're arresting her husband. And she's like, she's saying just a few things. Well, they walked her out and they arrested her. Wow. And so then there's another gentleman that basically said I think it's James, that says something. He basically says, "This is not constitutional, da, 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 da." And he's not yelling. He just says it to the officer. Mm-hmm. They walk him out in the back and they arrest him. And then Ken Eyring, it talks to this woman, I think it's Monica, yep, right? And the lady in red. He basically just leans over and talks in her ear, and there's a state trooper that's standing right there, and then all of a sudden the state trooper taps her on the shoulder. She gets arrested, and then there's a video where it's pretty crystal clear. I've been an activist in this whole thing. I've been vocal the whole time. I was definitely a target. All of these people have been very active and vocal, except for James. You've got Marilyn and AJ that are fighting voter integrity stuff with a whole slew of thousands of people in the state. They're huge targets. Dick Tracy knows Marilyn extremely well. Yep. And so yeah, he knows us all very well. Yeah. And then you have Frank that basically protested at the governor's house with the mask mandates. You have Therese, that's a nurse that's been speaking out for weeks and weeks and weeks now and protesting for all of these healthcare workers that are going to get fired. And it's just, yeah. So, and then you have me, where I've been, a health freedom, vocal point and all of this for, I've been fighting for a long time. Months. So, and I also know the governor personally too. So I think that also makes me a target. So there's a state trooper that's on an aisle, and there's a video where it's clear as day he's pointing at me. And unfortunately, these two state troopers that are over here, where he's pointing like this, and the two state troopers see it, they actually think that it's the woman that's directly sitting behind me, 6 inches away from me, a 70-year-old woman that's just sitting there. She has a hat on too. That's why I wore my hat today. And they grab her, and literally she's sitting there just peacefully. They grab her and she just starts screaming, "Why are you arresting me?" They pulled her out of her seat, her shirt lifted up, and she's fighting. She's resisting arrest and she should. I mean, why are they arresting her? And so they drag her out back, and there's a video that actually Marilyn took where they pushed her to the ground. Yep. I mean, her case is lockstep. I mean, from everything from wrongful arrest to police brutality to you name it. I understand that she has a concussion and a back injury. Correct. So she didn't necessarily get that from the ground. She has all the bruises on her legs and stuff from that. Yep. She has the concussion in the injury because in the paddy wagon, she was like smashed all around in the back of the paddy wagon when they took them away. it's the whole thing is so awful. And so the whole point of this, you can see that we were set up because he actually thought we were all going to rise up, right? Mm-hmm. And so there were enough paddy wagons, and there, by the way, there were sheriffs that were back there, which is very disappointing because
Extremely.
where are our sheriffs in New Hampshire? Yeah, what's going on with that? So,
non-existent.
Yeah, we need Sheriff Mack and all those kinds of sheriffs and deputies in New Hampshire because we don't have constitutional sheriffs anymore. They don't realize that they don't, that they should be marching to their own drum, to the people's drum, to the Constitution, New Hampshire and U.S.,
Correct.
not to
the
this
governors.
police state that's being created.
No,
exactly.
They don't answer to the governor.
That's right, exactly. So, but there's no checks and balances anymore. So there was a decent amount of sheriffs that were back there from, I think, 5 counties. We're getting that information, so we know exactly who was back there. But all the paddy wagons, or whatever you want to call them, were mainly sheriff wagons. So, and they had enough to haul us all away. So God bless everybody in that room because they didn't freak out.
Yep.
And so, it was hard not to many times. And I think if I was one that was arrested, I don't know if I would have gone quietly either. I think I would have, I would have flipped out.
Pushed back. What I don't understand, this was the 3rd meeting. I had been to the first 2. I didn't make it to this one. And to be set up like that, to all communications for well over a month, probably close to 6 weeks, we had been shut down. The executive council was not answering their phone. They weren't answering texts. They were not emptying their emails. They were not emptying their voicemails. Every time we'd call, mailbox full. Every time you'd send an email, mailbox full. It didn't matter what we did. They didn't pick up their phones. So for a good 4 to 6 weeks, they were not listening to the people. They were not hearing the people. They were not counting the thousands of people that were contacting them daily. Now, when you shut down the people's correspondence, which is our right, when you shut down our redress of grievance, it very clearly says in the video at the beginning, go back and listen to it. It says, and this is, Rick Lehman, the attorney for the Senate, in his own words, actually at Dan Richards' hearing, that says the police, the soldiers, shall not interfere with peaceful assembly and First Amendment rights. That the people have the right to instruct their public servants. They have the right to speak to their public servants. They have the right to assemble and make themselves heard. Yet this was completely shut down, and then they turn around and arrest everybody. And it's my understanding from several people that the state troopers did not sign the arrest warrants for disorderly conduct.
Yeah, so there actually is no criminal complaints still. They are, what do you call them? They're like bail paperwork. Mm-hmm. So in the bail paperwork, it's just, it basically says, disorderly conduct. A couple people had resisting arrest in addition to disorderly conduct. But there was actually one person it was so interesting because, so the one state trooper said to the other when they were doing the processing, should I put my name on it? And then the other state trooper said, no, don't sign that. Don't put your name on that. Okay. And so then it says on the top where you would have an officer or something like that, it says New Hampshire State Police. So not one state trooper put their name on any of these. So that is concerning.
That is very concerning.
They actually, which is another, in a sense, illegal, everything, we live in a lawless world right now, right? So in a lawless state, and it's hard to understand because everything's upside down. So on those same bail conditions, it says that the people are not allowed, all of those 9 that were arrested, See, this is the reason why I know that I was meant to be arrested, right? Because I wouldn't be able to be going to any other protests or meetings or anything, because they said that they couldn't contact the governor at all, and they couldn't be within 1,000 feet of the governor or any of the executive council. Why would that be? This isn't, they supposedly got arrested for disorderly conduct. They didn't do anything else. So you can't have like in a sense, a restraining type order or
Right.
no trespass
Right.
on something like that, because you just took people's First Amendment rights away.
Correct.
So the whole thing is smoke and mirrors. I actually think that it will be dropped. The night that it all went down, I did a page, a give, send, go. So we've already got over $16,000, which is wonderful, to just help people fight this.
Yep.
But this is going to go full blown. I mean, there's so many things that now it's kind of beautiful that this all happened. It's beautiful that the governor showed his colors here, because he needs to go. He's been attacking his own, and I call it his own, Republicans, for a long time now. And so if you just want to talk about what's gone on over the last, let's just say month and a half, he removes, Rep. Weiler from the House. He actually, so this is a guy that's been speaking out in some of the truth about what's going on with the plandemic. I call it the plandemic, with all of the stuff with COVID and everything else. And so he sent some emails to other fellow House reps and things like that. The governor went full out on attack because Rep. Weiler was the chair of the fiscal committee, which was going to pass some of this money, and he was a naysayer. So what does the governor do? He goes after him. So, and that got crazy attention. That got national attention from the governor going on attack and removing him. So he didn't just remove him from his chair position in finance and fiscal. He actually removed him from the committee. And then he put in another, one of the people that was basically appointed in a sense to the position that Weiler was in. She's weak. She's another lapdog for Sununu, because that's what it is. He has all these little minions that come around and they just do his bidding. That's what goes on in the Senate. That's what goes on everywhere in New Hampshire. But nobody knows about this because WMUR is fake news. Too bad it wasn't chit-chatting with Jocelyn every day of the week and twice on Sunday, because we'd have real news in New Hampshire.
We actually would. So hang on for a minute here, Kelley. So we've blown through the half hour. So I'm just going to say thank you for joining me.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.